Welcome to Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation possible. You will get to hear from CSIA system integrators and industry partners to get a better understanding of how they help their clients solve process challenges and how they've earned success in their careers. Along the way, we will touch on system integration best practices, technology, trends, and challenges. Whether you are a manufacturer, end user, supplier, or system integrator, you will enjoy the insights these industry professionals bring to this podcast. Let's get started. Hi, my name is Lisa Richter, the host of Talking Industrial Automation, a podcast where you get to know the people who make modern industrial automation and processing possible. In today's episode, we're talking industrial automation with Kerry Grimes, who is the global head of partners for Aveva. In this role, Kerry leads Aveva's worldwide sales go-to-market strategy for all Aveva partners, which consists of more than 5,000 distributors, solution providers, global and regional system integrators, and technology providers selling, servicing, and supporting Aveva's entire product portfolio. Kerry joined Aveva as the company's channel chief in March 2019. Since then, he has led the management of Aveva's global channel sales strategy and formulated the unified Aveva partner network. Prior to Aveva, Kerry was the channel chief at PTC and Siemens PLM Software. He also founded Rocksteady Networks, a software company that develops a platform to enable intelligent bandwidth management, security enforcement, and differentiated services on a user-specific basis at the edge of the network. Kerry, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Thank you very much for having me. Excited to talk with you today.
So let's dive in. Why did you choose a career focusing on partners, or maybe the career chose you?
Yeah, it's interesting. The career kind of chose me. I went to RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology, and after school, I was recruited by IBM to join them. And I had many different jobs within IBM, from product management to finance to operations. And one of the jobs I enjoyed the most was channel operations. And at the time, I was the global director of channel operations for the IBM software group. We managed 46,000 partners around the world. And I kind of say I cut my teeth on working with partners. So I was fortunate enough within IBM to go from job to job to job, kind of on a high potential program within IBM. I was an IBM executive by the time I was 30 years old and enjoying my career there, going to many jobs. But I have to say, working with partners was by far my favorite. In fact, IBM wanted to move me up to Armonk from being in Austin, Texas, and I just didn't want to make that move and knew I could go enjoy a job in partnering pretty much anywhere I wanted to. And that's what I got to do. And from there, from IBM, I've now been a channel chief at 4 different enterprise software companies. I've had the opportunity to grow partner programs at many different places, and now find myself at Aveva in a really exciting time and excited about what we're doing here at Aveva.
How do you describe to lay people what you do? Say at a cocktail party, if we're going to cocktail parties now, I don't know, maybe a virtual cocktail party.
I'm in Texas. Yeah, we go to all kinds of parties. We're kind of putting the COVID piece behind us now. Even with this new variant coming out, I find that it's not very lethal, even though you may catch it like the flu. And so we're moving beyond all of that. So yes, I'm doing cocktail parties. But to answer your questions on how I describe what we do, it's digital transformation, but digital transformation for these older, stodgy industries like oil and gas and utilities and energy. And I explain to people, well, think of digital transformation of retail. You used to shop at a store all the time, and now you hop on Amazon and you buy whatever you want. Well, that's digital transformation. We've done the same thing in banking. I can access my bank and see what my balance is, transfer money, do all kinds of things. And so if you think from a layman's terms, everything that we do all the time, from shopping on the internet or banking, or as I said, I do the same thing, or we do with our partners, to help our customers in these other industries be more digitally efficient. So better manage and operate the plants that they're in using data. That's what we do.
Tell me a little bit about the history of Aveva and how it has evolved.
Aveva is an exciting company. I would say, we're now a $1.2 billion company, but, just back in 2018, we were at 1.2 billion. So we've gone like 6x in the last 3 years. Certainly not all organic growth, right? We had a lot of inorganic by putting different acquisitions together. If you go all the way back 50 years ago to 1967, CAD Center was invested in by the UK government, and Aveva was kind of established, not branded Aveva until it was in around 1980-ish, I think. It started carrying a rebrand and really became a huge engineering success and has been an engineering success for a long time. At the same time, back in 1987, you had Wonderware. Wonderware was then the first HMI SCADA product to be on Windows. And then you had OSI was created in 1980. And all of these are running as separate companies. Schneider Electric ended up with Schneider Electric software that had Wonderware and Invensys and a number of other companies that they put together back in 2014. And then Aveva and Schneider got together and really created Aveva in 2018. And then more recently, in the last year, closed on the OSI acquisition. And that's really, like I said, taken us from 200 million pounds to 1.2 billion pounds. But it's really a history of a lot of different acquisitions that finally came together under one brand. And now we are by far, in my view, the most powerful industrial automation company on the planet. And I am really excited about what we're able to do going forward and why it's such a great opportunity for our system integrators.
So for those who may not have caught that, he's using numbers in pounds, just sterling, because Aveva is UK-based, correct?
Correct. We are a UK-based company. In fact, we're in the FTSE 50. We're actually the largest software company in the United Kingdom. And so that's also exciting.
Aveva has a strong SI community worldwide. What products or solutions would you recommend an SI look into?
Most of our system integrators, all in the manufacturing side, are well familiar with HMI SCADA and what we call our monitoring and control business. But as we look into the future and look forward, it's really all about data and communication and getting our customers to aggregate data and then use that data to be operationally efficient. And so getting to the cloud, I think, is important. So focusing on some cloud-based technologies like our Aveva Connect product, looking into Insight, which is in the area of advanced analytics, I think is also important, and helping your customers move from the edge to enterprise, meaning from the edge of the plant, which is really where your HMI SCADA is housed. You may collect data with a local historian, but now how do you get all that information, aggregate it all up with where you may want to analyze it? And so I think that edge to enterprise story is also important. And then lastly, the unified operating center, which is once you get to an enterprise and you're wanting to look at data, being able to look at what's happening across the plant with all of your assets and looking at all of the data to help make operational decisions, that's where things are really heading. So I would say this whole movement with digital transformation from edge to enterprise is where our SIs want to really start to focus on. And I think there's a bright future for at least the next 10 years on getting digital transformation to these older, stodgier industries. So it's a lot of fun. I think there's a lot of things we can do for our customers and our partners, but also help people be more sustainable as well. I think sustainability is a big piece for where Aveva is heading to in the future as well.
What other suppliers do you partner with?
There's several. I mean, if you look at large global system integrators, you have companies like Accenture that we're one of their top 8 strategic partners in what we're looking at in terms of manufacturing. Microsoft is now a key player with us. We're one of their 7 top partners in the area of energy and manufacturing. And we're actually the Energy Partner of the Year last year for Microsoft. And we're proud of that. So we have a good relationship with Microsoft. And then certainly I can't forget Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric and Aveva are fairly close, as we talked about earlier, and how we put together Aveva. Schneider Electric is also a good partner of ours in terms of what we do together.
We can't leave them out. We'd be in big trouble if we left them out.
I would certainly be in trouble if I left Schneider Electric out. I would say they're obviously our most strategic partner. I have folks that are responsible for that relationship. So for those that don't realize, Schneider Electric owns a little over 60% of Aveva's stock. And so they are an important strategic partner for us. And I have a staff of people that does nothing but continue to focus on our relationship with Schneider.
240,000. That's how many page views the Industrial Automation Exchange pulled in last year. What's more, 90% of them were new users. And if that's not enough, the Exchange ranks number 1 in Google search engine results for a number of key queries. What does that mean for you? Simple. If you are a system integrator or supplier who is not maximizing your presence on the Exchange, you are missing out on this traffic and the collective authority of this digital marketing powerhouse. The good news? The Exchange offers upgrades, packages, and display opportunities to ensure your brand is top of mind during your customers' complicated, research-based buying journey. To learn more about the packages and advertising opportunities, contact me, Lisa Richter, at industrydir@controlsys.org. Let's face it, it's a digital world out there, and you need to make sure your company doesn't get left behind. Let the Exchange go to work for you. Talk a little bit more about your SI Partner Program. Give us the deets.
The SI Partner Program, and you mentioned kind of in the intro, we have about 4,000 system integrators. And the foundation of that, the heritage of that, is really from our Wonderware program, where things had all started. And with that, we've moved into areas like predictive analytics has been big, looking at unified supply chain has been big, looking at simulation, unified engineering. And so we've kind of grown from that monitoring control base, as we talked about earlier, into a number of other things. And now with the acquisition of OSI, who also had a lot of system integrators, we're integrating all of that and stitching that into one system integrator program. And so we're looking hard at the areas of how we're certifying and making sure that our partners are certainly well certified in the variety of things that they want to go to market with and work with their customers on.
So you talked a little bit about the aggressive growth that Aveva has undergone over the past couple of decades. I don't know how long the organization's been around, but what about the past year? What's happened in the past year, and what do you expect for the company in the next 12 to 24 months?
So certainly with the pandemic in the last year has been a challenge to every company. We've learned to do business differently. We would used to go install software with people on customer premise. And we've learned to, with our partners, have all learned to be able to work with our customers remotely and doing remote installations and so forth. But also with the pandemic, our customers have having to find themselves remote workforce is really important to them, and being able to get data in the hands of workforce more remotely. And this really plays into that edge to enterprise story, and the collection of data and being able to distribute that data is, I think, extremely important. And so a lot of stuff going on with that.
What would you say is the smartest decision Aveva has made recently?
A couple. Certainly from an acquisition point of view, acquiring OSI Soft was an extremely strategic acquisition for us. I mean, as you look at the whole edge to enterprise play that I talked about, getting data up to a data historian that is extremely scalable is huge. But I also think our pivot into sustainability is also important. As we are helping, I call them old stodgy enterprises before, but I mean that in a kind way, actually, right? I mean, we look at oil and gas, and some people think, well, we can make oil and gas go away and all of a sudden everything will be green. These oil and gas companies are actually investing more in sustainable activities and getting to sustainable energy. I mean, if you looked at all of their investment and added it all up, it's probably more than any other industry. So on one hand, people get down on the oil and gas industry. I don't. I actually think it's fun to help them. They're the ones that have the money from oil and gas, and they're the ones that are putting money into finding more sustainable means in a rate and pace that's actually going to make sense in the world. We say, let's all go to electric energy, but how on earth is a power grid in California, which can barely handle the degree of Teslas that are running in California today, one more Tesla being added is probably going to take California's grid down. And so how can you actually get there? And think of all the other products that are made with oil and gas, our roads, the rubbers and plastics for bottles and all kinds of stuff. And yes, I want to be more sustainable too, but that's going to happen in a rate and pace that really makes sense. And we want to be a sustainable company. We want to absolutely get there, but we got to help customers get there in the right rate and pace. And that's exactly what we're doing at Aveva.
I guess being from Texas, you got to be careful if you're bashing somebody else's power grid, right?
Well, exactly. I mean, when you think of what we had as an issue in February, one could say the same thing. So absolutely. Just goes to show how fragile they can be as well.
Exactly. Right.
Was putting extra load just to say we all could have electric cars. Where's that energy going to come from is the point I'm trying to say. So whether it's the fragile grid we have in Texas or California, either one. I chose to pick on a different state.
I just had to call you out on that one.
Yeah, it's probably a fair call out. But sustainability is a real key effort to Aveva, and I'm excited about what we're doing with it and excited about who's doing it, because I just think it's funny how we get down on oil and gas companies, but really they are the ones putting a huge amount of investment in sustainable efforts. And so we all want to get there. We all want to have a better planet. At Aveva, we all want to help our customers more optimally use the raw materials they have, and resources are also a raw material. So how do you help people better plan your resources? And it falls in line with exactly what we do. And so it's really exciting.
I think too, from a talent perspective, the younger generation are attracted to that idea of sustainability and something that they're looking for when they're joining an organization to understand where that organization is going and what the values are there. So smart.
Absolutely.
Tell us why you think your customers return to you project after project.
I want to say two things: scalability and reliability. We have scalable and reliable products. I mean, if you look at our HMI SCADA products, we're number one in HMI SCADA. We're number one in data historians. That's why customers choose us. We've got great products. They are priced competitively. Yes, they're more than a lot of our competitors, but it's because we put more into them as well. And that's exactly what our SIs help us do, and help us build customer success programs so that our customers are successfully implementing what our software does, and customers have a strong return on investment of what they do with us. So it works out. But scalability, reliability are the top two things.
What advice would you give a prospective customer researching you versus one of your competitors?
I'm going to say, I use scalable and reliable, but it's also extensible. So there's a lot of competitors, especially in the HMI SCADA, that have cheaper products. And if that is what you're looking for, that's fine. But I would also say, look out at what you're trying to do in the long term of your business and make sure you're building an extensible solution that you can actually go from edge to enterprise and be able to now not just capture the data, but really analyze the data. So if you kind of pigeonhole yourself into only being on the plant floor, yeah, there's some other interesting solutions that are out there. But I think if you start to really broaden your aperture, maybe not of where you want to be today, but where you're going to want to be, a couple of years from now, it's going to bring yourself to an edge to enterprise story. And that's where that extensibility and thinking through and who has the largest portfolio of industrial automation products. Aveva does. So that's what I would look heavily at. And if you're a system integrator, I would take a hard look at all of those things. And I believe a lot of SIs don't realize everything Aveva has, because we've only been the new Aveva for the last couple of years. Some people think of Aveva still as an engineering company, and we still have great products for that. And it's still an important piece of our portfolio. But when you look at the rest of the breadth of everything that we do, helping our customers with digital transformation and becoming more sustainable, we've got a huge portfolio that will help with that. Which is also, I'm going to add, why it takes a large and great network of system integrators. I'm a person that says, with digital transformation, it takes a large partner ecosystem to make that work well. No one person or one partner can actually take the breadth and scope of what Aveva has and be able to implement it all on their own. This concept of partnering with partners is becoming extremely interesting when I'm actually seeing different system integrators working with each other to bring something to bear. So I would encourage people to look at the breadth of what we do.
As a podcast listener, you know that podcasts are, they're having a kind of a moment. And while the Talking Industrial Automation podcast is no crime junkie, it does have more than 93,000 downloads since inception in 2018. In fact, it's very typical that an episode gets 1,000 downloads within weeks of dropping, numbers that only the top 5 to 10% of podcasts attain, according to Buzzsprout data. Why am I telling you all this? Because I want you to be able to tap into this audience by purchasing a 60-second spot. If you are looking to fill your pipeline of talent, for instance, what better way to show the younger demographic that you are an innovative company willing to meet your audience where they are? Or maybe you're launching a product or service or just have something to say. The Talking Industrial Automation podcast is the place to do it. Contact me, Lisa Richter, at podcast@controlsys.org. As the saying goes, let me help you. What challenges are your customers facing right now?
I would say certainly if you think of what's happening in the food and beverage or consumer packaged good, we all are realizing what's happening with supply chain. So a lot of our customers are reeling around with supply chain issues, and that is something we can help our customers with. The other thing we talked about is just remote workforce and training. Customers are trying to figure out how to deal with a remote workforce. What does the new workforce look like and what that balance is on premise versus what's going to be at home, and how do we manage that? And so our customers are thinking through that and looking for products to help them with that.
This gives me an opportunity to shamelessly plug the CSA Executive Conference because the theme is the future of work.
That's awesome. We will certainly be there.
Awesome. What kinds of trends and challenges are you seeing in industrial automation?
The movement to the cloud, I think, is really interesting. So certainly in industrial automation, everything we were doing, and a lot of it was the feeds and speeds of controlling equipment, was on-prem. And certainly with other enterprise software, you look at CRM systems, ERP systems, things have moved to the cloud very, very quickly. And certainly we want to do the same thing in industrial automation. But you kind of need a hybrid approach to the cloud in industrial automation. Just because we could make things oriented to the cloud doesn't mean they're best functioning in the cloud. And an example I use, take a key fob that you use to open a car door. And I drive a car, I can just touch the handle and it opens up, but it's communicating with the key fob. And that's a local instruction that's taking place. Certainly the technology is there to go from the key fob up to the cloud and then from the cloud down to the car. So the technology is there, but is that really useful? Well, the same thing I think takes place in the manufacturing environment. So we are working hard to bring the pieces like analytics and the storage of data into the cloud. So the pieces that make sense to put in the cloud, we're putting up in the cloud. The pieces that don't make sense to work in the cloud that need to be on-prem will still be on-prem. And then that's why I call it a hybrid cloud, because now we got to make it all work together in unison. And so there's a lot of pressure of move to the cloud. But in a manufacturing sense, I think people can think of, well, how fast can you get everything there? And what should be there versus what's not? I use the stupid key fob example just to make an exaggerated point that just because, you could put that on the cloud, why would you? And the same thing takes place in the manufacturing environment. And we want to get to a point where we allow our customers to decide what do they want to put on the cloud versus what they don't, and make everything that we do cloud enabled, and then let the customer decide what's best in their environment, because certain segments may move there quicker than other segments. So that to me is the biggest challenge, is the pressure to get everything on the cloud as quickly as we can with what is the right rate and pace to actually do that.
Aveva optimistic about the future of the automation industry?
I am really optimistic about what we're doing. I mean, when I look at, like I said before, the money in the oil and gas market, the money in utilities, the money in energy, and all of these industries have not optimized yet with digital transformation, or what others may call Industry 4.0. And the time frame to actually make all of that happen, I think, is going to be in the next 10 years. And so I think the future is extremely bright for Aveva for that next decade, and probably further than that. But I see a really strong future in the next decade. And I think our SIs kind of look at trends of what's happening in mega trends in that kind of decade at a time kind of thing on where they're going to put their investment. And I think to invest in these industries that Aveva is part of and helping our customers get to a more sustainable future for themselves and be able to optimize the data to actually have efficient operations and strong return on assets of their equipment, I think it's a super market. And so I'm really excited about that.
Switching gears a little bit, let's talk about CSIA. What would you say is the biggest benefit of CSIA membership for Aveva?
I think you guys provide an excellent platform and structure for our partners. I think so that's interesting. And it allows our partners to collaborate with each other, allows us to learn from each other. And I think that's all good. I think it's also good that you also support a very strong and open and decentralized system, just like we are. We're all about decentralized innovation. And so I think we have a lot of common things there. And I think it's important that we all both continue to really promote and encourage an SI community to really join and use the certifications that you all offer. And that really complements the certification programs that we also have.
From a supplier perspective, how should a customer go about choosing a system integrator?
I think suppliers have SI programs that are in place today. And our program really allows our SIs to differentiate themselves and really differentiate with different certifications, really allow them to learn and get certified in other programs that takes them beyond HMI and SCADA. I believe it really creates a strong and robust environment for us to work on collectively. So excited about what we're doing there.
Again, from a supplier perspective, why should a prospective customer hire a CSIA certified member?
The certification program that all of you have put together really shows a strong level of competency. And I think you want to make sure when you're choosing an SI that you're choosing an SI that's competent in what they're going to be able to do. And that's something that I think we've worked on strongly together and why I think it's important.
Switching gears completely again. If you had to choose a completely different career, what would you choose?
That's an interesting one. I've been asked that before as well. And I honestly have trouble answering that because I love what I do so much. I love working with partners. As I said, I've worked for 4 different enterprise software companies now, each for at least 7 years. So it's not like I've been job hopping, but I love to go around and help. But if I were to choose something different, a long time ago, as I was trying to think about what I wanted to go to school for, I wanted to open my own sporting goods store. This was a long time ago before you had like the big Dick's Sporting Goods, or it was like a mom and pop sporting goods shop is what I had wanted to open. And that would have been interesting to see how I would have followed digital transformation in retail. And maybe I could have actually created the world's largest online sporting goods store. I don't know, but it's an interesting question. I mean, I've never thought about being an attorney or anything like that. I'm good at arguing with people, but I'm not sure I have the aptitude to read as much as an attorney has to read. I don't have the patience to be an accountant or a tax accountant. I enjoy relationships with people. So I found my home in sales and working with partners. So I'm lucky to enjoy what I do every day.
Let me ask you this. If you did have a mom and pop store back in the day, would you have worms? Do you remember when you used to go to like a hardware store or maybe a sporting goods store? There'd be like buckets of worms there. That's what I remember.
And you go, I have a place on the coast in Galveston, and you go into the local market and there's like fish and worms and stuff to go purchase for fishing. So I can remember what you're talking. A lot of them were rubber worms at the time too. There were some pretty weird things sold in sporting goods stores in the day. I think you're right about that.
What's the best advice you could give your younger self just getting started?
Well, we've just been talking about do a job that you love. So I think the most important thing is you're thinking of a career and thinking about what you want to do. You spend more time working than probably anything else in your life. And so you got to figure out what you love to do and do something that you love to do. That's got to be number one. And once you choose that, then I think you got to work hard at it. I think you have to work really hard at it and then build strong relationships with others. And I think those kind of combination of all those things will make you successful. But if you have the drive to be successful at whatever it is, you can get there.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Talking Industrial Automation. If you are interested in learning more about Kerry or Aveva, you can find them on the Industrial Automation Exchange at www.csiaexchange.com. Thanks for listening, and thank you, Kerry, for joining me today.
Lisa, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe in iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also help others find us by leaving a 5-star review and sharing your favorite episodes with colleagues. Thanks for listening to the Talking Industrial Automation podcast. Thanks also to bensound.com and Wistia for the music bumpers. Until next time.